Hi everyone, my name is Miss Riasso and I'm going to walk you through the MAT 152 lab on section 10.2, and it does have some review from chapters 8 and chapter 9. Okay. Again, we have our objectives here, and you want to make sure that you complete your work on this paper or insert it into this document. Typed labs will not be accepted, and you should be handwriting your answers. Other than your notes, calculator, or reaching out to your instructor, you should not be receiving help from other people, electronics, tutors, or apps on the lab. Failure to complete the questions with the method as directed will receive no credit for those questions. So again, some of these questions, we want you to use a specific method to calculate them. And then another big thing here is to make sure you are using the data provided. If you do not use the data provided, then there will be no credit for the questions or question that pertain to that class data if you have not used the correct data. Complete sentences are required except for on numbers 2 and 5, and they should be grammatically correct. And then we have our rounding directions. Z's should be to 2 decimal places, T's should be to 3 decimal places, and p-values should be to 4 decimal places. So our first question here is formulating a hypothesis. So do you think the mean age of male students at Rowan-Cabarrus is equal to, greater than, or less than the mean age of female students at RCCC? Right? This is just your opinion, and you should just give an explanation why you think that's the case. This is not reflective of the data specifically. It's just what you see and what you think. Now, earlier I was talking about you should be using the data provided. This right here is a hyperlink for you guys on the Word document. It is the data that I am talking about. So it has the calculator already done. So one of the instructors has taken all the data and already calculated the one of our stats for it. We are going to fill in the information for males. That will be our first group here, as we see group 1, and our females will be group 2. We want to make sure we label each value with the correct symbol with subscripts, okay? Subscripts being our group values, right? And we want to round to 2 decimal places when applicable as well. So you'll see we have our symbols that you'll want to write, and then the value for males, and then we'll have the symbol and the value for females. Okay. Based on our information in number 2, we want to state which specific test in our calculator that we are going to use to test our hypothesis in number 1. So that is going to tell us which one we should be choosing in our calculator, because we want to use our calculator for these problems. And we need to explain why we can use this test. Remember, explanations should be in complete sentences. Once we do that, we are then going to test our hypothesis. So we are specifically testing your claim. So what did you claim in number 1? Did you claim that male students, the average age of male students is greater than, less than, or equal to / not equal to in number 1 to the mean age of female students? So we have the answers for all of these calculated, so it'll be based off of which one you have chosen as to which numbers we're looking for. So you'll set up your hypothesis based off of this claim, and then you're going to use your calculator test that you stated from number 3 and all of the inputs that go with that. Okay. You'll then use that test and get your standardized test statistic and p-value from that. Once you have those, you can conclude the test similar to what we have done in previous labs. Our p-value is less than or greater than the level of significance. And then we either reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis, and the data are or are not statistically significant. Then once you have your conclusion, you can do your interpretation. Keep in mind these should be in context. Okay. Then we are going to look at the sample ages of the female and male combined. You might notice that the number is not fully combined. Sometimes we have students who choose not to answer, and that's fine. So if the sample size is a little off from adding the two together, that's fine. You're going to use what is provided for you in the entire sample. Okay. So again, you'll put your symbols for the entire sample option, and then the values that go along with those numbers. Okay. Then on number 6, again, we want to make sure we're using our calculator, one of those tests. Which test would we use to construct a confidence interval? And then using that test we selected, we're going to actually complete that. So we'll put our inputs, calculate our interval, and write our interpretation. And then based off of this confidence interval, do we think that the mean age is still a certain age? So right now on my lab, it's based off of 2022. Hopefully we can get some more updated numbers for this semester. So then we're going to test that 26. So we want to know if the mean age is now different than that value. Again, it may or may not be 26 on your lab. So this reminds us to refer to 9.2 if needed, and we are going to use our calculator to run this test. Okay. So we are going to state our hypothesis, and then we actually want to find our test statistic using the formula. So we are going to show all of our work here using our formula. Okay, so I know this says calculator, but the running the test for the p-value is for the p-value down here, not the test statistic. So after you get your equation here, your formula, sorry, and your answer, we can then go back to our test on our calculator and find the p-value. So which test did you use, and what is that p-value rounded to 4 decimal places? And then again, we can conclude our test very similarly to the previous ones. Now, did our confidence interval in number 6 and our hypothesis test yield the same results? Yes or no, and explain why or why not. And then we are just going to look at our confidence interval and see if we can make a general conclusion. So you want to restate your confidence interval from number 6. And in this table here, we're going to choose a value within the confidence interval, 2 of those, and then 1 just outside the lower limit and just outside the upper limit. So let's say, for example, our interval was 10 to 15, right? It's probably not going to be that, but let's just say that is. So a value within the interval might be 11, and another value within the interval might be 13. A value just outside the lower limit would be something below 10. So we could do 9. And then a value above the upper limit, we could say 16. You could go further out from the 9 and the 16 if you wanted to, as long as it is above or below, that is fine. Okay. So then you're going to go back into your t-test here, and you're going to find the p-value given that this was the mu sub 0. Okay. So you'll find the p-value from the calculator and write it here rounded to 4 decimal places. And then based off of your p-value and an alpha of 0.05, you're going to see if you reject the null or if you fail to reject the null. You should see a pattern happen here, and from that, you will discuss the relationship between the confidence interval and the two-tailed hypothesis test. Okay. And that is all for the 10.2 with Review Lab. If you have questions, be sure to reach out to your instructor.